I was reading the word, and the word said something very profound to me, okay? And I want to share that word with you. It came from Psalm 45. And the message is what made me think twice, 3 times. And I said, God, look at how amazing you are. Look at the things that you do, you know. But here's what the word said. The word said, okay, I just want to be on a little higher note of time. It said something like this. It says, my heart is inditing a good matter. I speak of the things which I have made touching the king. My tongue is a pen of a ready writer. And I thought, yes, today we're talking about something that is very important to me and should be to you as well. And that is, we're talking on our community dateline about telling our Black history truth. You know, people write about us, people say many things about us, but our story belongs to us. We need to tell our story. We don't need anybody to write about it. I don't care. Well, for me, I really don't care who explored and who didn't explore. When you read the history of what happened, we need to give our stories. And as we are moving along in life, we have present day stories that needs to be attached to that first story that you need to talk about. You need to let the world know what happened. And you need to let the children know what took place. Because we just can't live like that. We just can't be here and there, live lackadaisical. No, our story is a serious one. It's a long one, and we need to get it go. So this is Black History Month, and I thought I would jump into some history from way back when. Back in the day, like they say, back in the day. What happened back in the day? You know, you have any idea? Are you interested? How was life? And I have to say good morning to Minister Merle because we haven't spoken for a while. But I just touched base with her this morning, so she's going to be on sometime. She will jump on and jump off. So when she comes on, we'll see her. Okay. So what is our story? Why are we at this part of the world? Well, number one is our history is it's so much that many of us don't even know what it encompasses. Our history is so profound. It has many events in it. And it started a long, long time ago. You know, in the 16th century, there were merchants, you know, people selling their goods everywhere. And of course, they were trading here and trading there, trading with Africa, trading with America, to the Americas at some point in time. So in the 16th century, European merchants, mainly from Portugal, they are the ones who initiated the transatlantic slave trade, as they call it. But we're not slaves, we were enslaved. Okay? And the traders were many, but only a few of them ventured inland in Africa for fear of violence and tropical diseases. Okay. So by truth, Africa is pretty close to where we went. I guess I took the long route, so our ancestors would believe that it's such a long way away from where we were. But a few pilots have made it clear that Kerbin is about 4.5 hours by direct flight to Africa, depending on where you're going, because it's a very huge continent. So our story is one that has to be told up till today's inclusion, okay? What are trading? And trading spanned many cultures and nationalities, as well as religions, from the ancient times right up to our present day. What's happening in our present day? We're looking for food. Food is a big thing. People are looking to figure out how to get food, where to get it, best prices, who to work with, what to deal with. There's so many things happening in this world. When I think of this world and how we're going on, and the things that they're doing day by day by day, nothing has changed, A lot of things that are going on has been going on for a long time. So there's my words. But I want you all to pay some particular attention to things. When you go to the grocery store, pay attention. Okay? Because in our modern day times and what's happening, I was reading something about the banks. And it's very terrible. But the banks do business with money that they don't have. And then when they run into a rut, guess who pays back? We have to pay the bank. We do. But that's for another day. Okay? So, they call it fraction reserve, where they put in the deposits. They deposit money and they guarantee the money. But there's no money. So where does the money come from? Interest rates become repressed. All these things happen. You know why? Because big business is doing business their way. And if half of them were caught, and when they get caught, the law would take over, we wouldn't have the issues, a lot of issues. But that's another day. So let's talk about our story. We planted food. We are brought over to make sure that there's crops grown and food sharing back to the same people that enslaved our people. So when you go to the grocery store and you see all the little, those little, they're what you call it. When you scan your stuff at the back of there's a tab. So these scan numbers, these things that you scan. Okay, let's go here. These. When you go to the grocery store, if you see it's a 9, it's organic food. If it's a 4, starts with a 4, that's the beginning number. It's because it has pesticides and chemicals. And if it's number 8, it's genetically modified. Why do we need genetically modified food when God has given us the earth is the Lord and the fullness thereof? Okay, the world and they that dwell therein. Why? Think about it. Mull it over. We'll come back to this, not today, another day. And we will talk about our genetically modified food chains. Some people have been buying a lot of land because, they're able to do so because of their business dealings, and they want to create things. They want to put vaccines and spinach and corn and other products. Let us tell our story. We are farmers. We know agriculture. We know inventions. We've created things to work with the land. Even built the White House. So why aren't we telling our story, right? Why aren't we focusing on our story and ourselves? That is another story by itself. So let's talk about what happened. Because from ancient times to present day, we still have oppressions. We still have the tradings, and even more so now because prices are higher, interest rates are higher, and guess what? Everybody wants to have their way, okay? Everybody wants to be able to do for themselves, but we need to have ourselves done too, in this light. So we talk about the social, our economic, and legal positions that has taken place with the enslavement of our people. And it has differed vastly because there are many systems of enslavement, okay? It's based on the time, and the place. So we'll go back. Let's talk about going way back. So going way back to 3,500 BC. Okay, that's before Christ. Think of Sumer in Mesopotamia. So this is way, way back, It's the Meso Code of Hammurabi. That's in 1750 BC. Slavery was dating back all the way then. And how was it done? They've done it in many ways. If you go through the stories, widespread in the ancient world was slavery. In Europe, they had slaves. I remember years ago, I was very young, reading a book about the coal mining doors. And the poor children were the ones who were closing these huge, huge doors, when they had chimney sweeps and stuff like that. People would come and clean the chimney. They had these children, and what they will do, they will come and they will help to open and close these doors. So they couldn't afford school, they couldn't afford, so they had to do something to help. And that's what they had them doing. Closing the doors, opening and closing huge doors. So it take a few of them to do it. When you think of our lives as human beings, and you think about how the human spirit works, it's deplorable to think of, just to think of it. A man could take somebody else's child and call them a slave and have them do what they want to do. Clean their homes, watch their children, so many things they have done. It's so much to talk about. It's just that we need to get our stories written by our account of it. When you look at the Western world, let's compare by comparison. You find that people come this way and they're kept down a lot in their jobs. Promotions are not easy. There's always an excuse, to give you economic development or any development opportunities to rise up. And some of us, when we do rise up, we forget We forget that our brothers and sisters are behind and they need help. Our systems, when you look at our systems, we have a lot of things happening in our systems for us as a people. And when I think of people that have been in politics and that could do better, it upsets me. Okay. I'm thirsty this morning. It upsets me simply because why getting to a place of political influence? And what are you working on? You're here to represent the people. That includes your people as well. And everybody, you know, like I had an old saying, I've been saying it for years and years. I said, you know, there's enough pie in the sky for each one of us on this earth to get a slice of it. Otherwise, God wouldn't create all of us. He knows there's room for each and every one of us. And therefore, for those who think we are overpopulated, well, I don't know where they get their numerics from, but it's all based on whatever their plans are. So we have to have our own plans for ourselves so that when things are tougher, and it's tough already, we're able to get together and do it. And see, one of the things we don't have is unity among humanity. So when you look at people, people say about themselves and they look at you and say, well, you don't have this, you don't have this. But has the pie been shared equally? Has the opportunities been given equally? Has the salaries been on par? Is there equity in the salaries we receive? See, equity says that there is no difference in the job that you and I do on the same level. So therefore the pay has to be the same. But is that so? No. So we have pay equity in government. And some companies have pay equity. You know, they have been asked by governments that do DEI, diversity, you know, and inclusion to do such a thing. But has that happened? Give me one second. Sorry, someone knocking. Yeah. So was that fair? Is it fair? Are we being treated fairly? How do we get together and do devise plans? See, when we don't have relationships with one another, and we don't inform one another about what's taking place, we will always be left behind because we have been brought up with a slave mentality, not to look at the next person and not to include that person. So we have hierarchy of friendship, a hierarchy of everything. You know, it's one of the things that divide us as a people, because if you even look on the continent, they're having elections, they're having different things taking place, and this one doesn't want to agree with the next one. It's the human spirit, but at the same time, we have to realize we're people that have been messed up with, for want of a better word. We have been under a lot of denial, pushed away, pushed back, and then they divided the world in three pieces, you know, the first, the second, and the third world. And then they say, oh, you are in the third world because you're not economically sufficient to yourself. You don't have that sufficiency. And yet still, all the food that's coming out to the West is coming from Africa and the Caribbean. Our resources, when we start rising, you know, they pull away, they join and they pull away so that, you know, we fall again. And then who blames whom? We are blamed, you know, that, you know, we're not doing enough. But Africa has the lowest GDP. It's about 9%. And yet still, they are in abject poverty. Yet still, their resources are being pulled by the different countries that have divided the kingdom of the continent, kingdoms of the continent, and say, peace belong to this one, peace belong to that one. What have we done? Who says anybody owns anything on this earth? Only God. That's his earth. He says, everything in the heavens and the earth belongs to me. We are here just to use it, share it, give thanks for it, enjoy it, because we have to leave it all behind. It's not leaving us. We are leaving it. So think about that. We are the ones that are getting older. We're given 3 score and 10, you know, 120. And that's it. If we live to that point until Christ's return. So when you look at all the things around you, we have to make plans. And we got to stick to our plans. We got to get together, and you have people that have the same mind, and, you know, with the mindset, not just for your little circle of friends, you know, not the little circle, but the whole of our community globally, locally and globally, so that we can get our stories out. We can do things for ourselves and create what it is. You know, it's very sad when I look at the amount of you know, our numbers, and yet still we shop. We don't have our own businesses. We, you know, and we're not getting together to say, well, this is wrong. Doing everybody who is risen up, they stay in their position and they're not interested in those that are behind. But when you look at crime, when you look at incarcerations and stuff like that, you realize that it is not something that's natural. When you look at children being pushed into programs that says, you know, they have a disability, they have a this, they have a this. It's all by design. And people not paying attention to all these things. Long ago, you know, your grandmother, your great-grandmother was able to tell you, you know, they observe things, they tell you about them. The system is there to cause us, any nation, not to rise. Because if we fight against each other as human beings, we call ourselves greater and better. How? If you're greater and better, would you be using something that came from a place that you despise, you dislike, and you said it's not good, but yet still you claim part of it? You see, when people's eyes are open and they're not dumbed down, then there's a problem. They find you defiant. So how do we fix that? Is writing our own stories. Ensuring that the world knows the truth about who you and I are, our people, our capabilities, our agricultural, you know, esteem, as, you know, things like that. In Africa, I was talking to someone recently, and the person said to me, oh, we have to buy our grain and our seeds from certain people. Now, why is that? Is it genetically modified? Is it organic? So let's help our brothers and sisters where we are and those far away by being on the same level playing field. And there are not two levels, there's only one level playing field. And if we follow the playing field right, we would be able to do what we have to do in terms of serving our communities well, building them well, building and following the education system, and that there be accountability to us. Otherwise, we would not have all these things. You know, transatlantic enslavement was there to create food for those who don't have the place to create food. And a lot of the things we eat, they have eaten simply because we are the ones planting and reaping. So, if Europe, Asia, the Middle East, and Africa live well together, we wouldn't have them and us, or they are better, or this is better. Because everything, look at China. China rise from becoming the country that people, they decided to change their game plan. And instead of sitting and living the way they were in the ancient times, and I remember when they just live on water, they have their little houseboats and stuff like that. And today when you look at China, you see China has changed the matrix of who they were, because they decided to take on the systems of the world to do business with the world. India did the same. They did all the outsourcing. They created a game plan. It worked. It gave India an edge. It gave China an edge. And they built on it. How can we as a people build our story through things that we do? They said the early Middle Ages, slavery was less common, but practice continued in many areas. So even in the Caribbean, someone doesn't have enough, but they'll come and do a day's work, pay with you. They do a day's work for a day's pay. Work for a couple of weeks and put aside what they have to. Because one thing where people are, we as a people can do very well is cut and contrive. We can extend what we have in a long way so that others can find solace in it. Okay? Enjoy it. Enjoy the benefits of the thing. One neighbor has pepper, the other one has rice. One has wheat or barley, and the other one has okras and coffee and all the cane. And they make different things from them. There's nowadays they don't have the sugarcane factories anymore because a lot of it is modified. But what they have is they've been using all these things to make many, many different products locally. So why aren't we telling the stories of who we are, what we're doing, how we have always been able to survive consistently, Now, they said that both Christians and Muslims were captured and enslaved each other during centuries of warfare in the Middle East and in Europe. So you see, the religious war created slavery. The religious war. We're busy trying to get everybody down pat on the word, whether it's in the Quran or the Bible, and it's created a lot of enslavement. So Europe has always had this up and down as to what they have. Remember, there's so many different churches that pass through us, Lutheran and many others. So here we talk about them, and we realize the type of world that we live in. Sit back and think about it. When organizations like GEM FM and the Genesis magazine rise up, we must support them, because we are supporting our own, and we're telling our own stories. It is important. It's our history and how we go. It's on our wave bands, and we can talk about what's happening in our communities, how we can help the children with autism, the children that it says they have this, they have that, and they have that. How are these things created? What it is that they're doing that's causing all of these things. I remember when kids were born, my children were born, they would, when they take the sample of blood, they take it from the heel. And I thought, a few years back, excuse me, bruising of the heel. I haven't explored it, but it's in the back of my mind. It's something I've written down that I've got to go back to do, historical issues that I want to follow and derive from it. What is the long-term, lengthy lifetime ways of doing things, and what is it? How is it done? But that's another story. That's another topic for another time. Things that we observe and things that we need to do a follow-up on that we haven't done anything with. It's so important, very important. I'm not sure if Minister Merle is on, but are you on, Minister Merle? Of course, she said she was going to come in. I guess if she comes in, we would know. Because she's en route from one place to the other. And sometimes it's not feasible. But we pray safe passage for her on her journey. When you think about Christianity and all the religious wars we've had, even recently, not too long ago, on the continent, there were so many different problems where children are stolen based on religion, taken to religious camps and all these type of things. You know the organizations, and it's something to revisit. Why is it important? Why are they forcing certain religious backgrounds, religious systems on the masses? Freedom of choice. Our freedoms are being compromised, squeezed, being more tailored to suit. Recently, I read where the Pope said, the Bible is outdated. What do you think about that? Since when the Word of God is outdated? Who outdated it? Man? Who created mankind? See where we're going? We're moving in a different direction. The Bible reminds us to be careful Be careful of these times because it's going to be hard times, difficult times, and there's lots going to be happening, you know. When you look at the Islamic enslavement, it's Western and Central Asia, North and East Africa, India and Europe. And that's all the way from the 7th to the 20th century. It's been happening. So this religious fight of who supposedly whatever, I don't know, I would say they're fighting for hierarchy. Who's better? Who's bigger? Now they have this new thing. They fight from the 7th to the 20th century. And today, the Pope went to the Middle East and he came back and he said that there's this new religion, Chrislam. It's not in the Bible. The Bible is based on belief in Christ Jesus, water baptism, and the word of God, saying with your mouth that Jesus is the Lord. And now there's a different story. That tells you that the window that we are living in is the last window. The Gentile age is coming to a close, and that great and mighty war with mankind and whose they are and who they believe in is coming very close. Okay? Now, a lot of trades with imprisoned Africans included gold and ivory from the West African kingdoms. So this tells you that Africa is not just a continent, but the early kingdoms came from there. Kingdoms. But where do we hear about kingdoms now? The Middle East and England, Europe. How do we assess this? Is by having more knowledge about ourselves and seeing what the truth of the matter truly and really is. Where are you today? What are you doing that's different? I'm concerned about our children in schools, the education that they're getting, all these things that the world wants us to accept. When governments are challenged and they accept whatever comes around, what do we say? How do we say it? How do we get our history right? It is time that we spend time finding out about our history. In the Caribbean, we know where we are, where we grew up, where we came from, our Caribbean ancestors. Us, we're the descendants of ancestors who came to the West of Virginia, and then moved all along the different places, the southern part of the United States. And it's all from trading. They trade guns, gunpowder. It's amazing when you look at the system of enslavement and what it says. When you look at the strength and endurance of the Black man, he's able to withstand and yet stand and create wealth. And today, when they talk about reparations, many are trying to tell you Oh, get over it. It's time to move forward. You're not the only persons that were enslaved. What do we do? What do we say? They had their systems going. Even if you had a child, like many homes, I remember many homes where parents don't have, they would like I said it earlier on, they would work with someone, give their time to get, their barter. I'll give my time so my kids will get food in their mouth, get clothes on their back. Is there anything wrong with that? No. But when you pick up a people, bring them out here, they get beaten, they get raped, they get bludgeoned. I remember this one slave owner, Leopold. He will chop off their hands just to make a point. I watched a movie recently with Will Smith. They get their freedom, and yet still they wanted to capture them from the South. It's been very hard for our people. Not that we did anything wrong, but because we're calm and collective, we're not warriors in that sense. And the leaders who exchange those they fought and that they have taken captive their booty to send them out. Imprison them, you send them out as booty. How do you feel today? When you think about it. What about the blending of people? I remember, I said it before, reading a book that was printed in Trinidad and Tobago, and it was concerning all the blending. When certain people came in, what they did is they sent the younger sons to blend, to make the women blend in. Blending means having a relationship, having children, so that they have something to say, well, I have roots here. And people do this all the time. They come in and they blend, and then what happened? They take off. Even in our children's relationships, in people's relationships, these things happen. People come in with purpose. And some of us unknowingly just get wrapped up in these things because of a person's thinking. When you're right thinking, you'll think righteously. But when you're thinking with an agenda, I got it from my throat. Excuse me. When you're thinking with an agenda, it's difficult to be honest with yourself or to those to whom you have placed in that position. It's very sad. It's very painful to think of one human being looking at another one based on color, but yet still, when the time was, they did blend with us. So the evidence is there, and thank God to DNA from God, the evidence will always be there. So what they tried, while it worked for them to have a say in it, it also worked against them to say that you can't dislike what you want. You went ahead and got involved in. Today, as I speak, people in places in Brazil and Colombia of African descent are pushed away. When one president gave them I think it was 300 acres, I can't remember. It's a certain amount of acres. But what he did was he gave it to them. And then the next person that came in took away from them. I think they got 300 hectares of land. 100 hectares of land to start off. Yes, it was 100, sorry. I was trying to go back in my memory. And by the time the new president came in, they were left with 3 hectares for themselves to huddle on. He took back what was legally and rightfully given to them, 97 hectares of land in Brazil, in Colombia. So these people had to just do what they had to do, and then they put them away so that they were far away from. So if you go to certain places, you would not know that they're African. Like I met a few people, and she said to me, my great grandmother is African, but the generations down were all European, Spanish, so you would not know. But of course, you know by the hair. Everybody knows by the hair. The curls, as opposed to straight hair, So all of these things have taken place in our society, of the African society, and our global human society. We've done a lot of things that we shouldn't have done. We said a lot of things we still shouldn't say, and we're still devising other things that shouldn't even be thought of. But when you wield your power by what you own, these are the things that we go through. People making decisions and saying, well, I remember hearing when was it Schwab? Klaus Schwab or Bill Gates talking about, we need to get rid of 3 billion people. I'm like, who is God? Who created man? Oh, excuse me. Who planted and watered that seed? It was God. And today, we've become so educated in our own sense that we are stating, we are saying, mankind is stating what needs to be done with God's population. They don't even realize that God says when he returns, there'll be room for everyone and more. There'll be over 3 trillions of people on this earth. We already see that man doesn't know how to manage well, that our taste for wealth and not just gathering wealth, but we hold it in this little, in our little corners of life. As though it's so precious that no, nobody else can have it anymore, because if we divide wealth, everybody would be on the level playing field, which we should be, because then we will be more humble, more grateful. We'll see one another as humanity. One race, one human race, and many nations. And that's what it is. It's nothing else. It will never be anything else. Only in man's eyes when they get the position of ruling. See, that's the problem. You give a man an opportunity, and you know what? He'll run over you. They pull you under the bus. It will be about this, that, and the other. Give me 1%. Yes, I. Yeah. Sorry about that. I'm coming to the end. So from my location here, you know, we have to look at what humanity is all about. It's our Black History Month in Canada. And we want each and every one of you to just sit down and look in the mirror of life and see where it's at. Engage in conversations that talk about humanity, talks about level playing fields and who we are in Christ, who created us, and what tomorrow is going to be. Because we don't know tomorrow. And all the people that are telling you about what they plan to do, look at COVID, look at the vaccine, look at so many things that have come out from it. It is embarrassing. It's very sad that other human beings are selfish to the point that they will think in that negative way. So, what can I say? Except, let's hope and keep in prayer. Keep the Master Creator alive in our lives so that we can have a sense of being. And instead of getting ourselves worried and concerned and fretting, and you know, let us devise and use the power that is stronger than man's words. Yes, they can come into militarized things. They can create all these things. Is it honest? Is it truthful? Well, I'm so glad it's not on my head, all the issues of life. But I'm glad that we are taking the time to remind you to rewrite your story. Keep your children tuned in to who they are and chin up and live long and strong. The word is there. Use the word and try and get that good relationship with one another. It's about time we stop being crabs in a barrel and become human and live according to what the word is saying. It's not about you or me. It's about us. It's about community. It's about unity. Have a blessed day and enjoy the next couple of days until I see you guys again. Have a good day. Bye for now. On behalf of Minister Merle, Minister Nataki, and myself. Blessings and happy Black History Month. Bye.